Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome WWE NXT UK superstar Joseph Connors is worthy and he is here. Mr. Connors, thank you. Thank you for joining us here at Superstar Speakers.
You're very welcome. Thank you for making me at home with the correct hashtag above us. Very, very nicely done job. Very worthy introduction. So I'm very happy to begin with.
Excellent. Ticking all the boxes straight away.
Absolutely.
So it's only downhill from here then, isn't it, really?
Let's hope not.
No, let's hope not. First question then, before we get the ball rolling. Our guest on Wednesday is the heavyweight House of Pain Sticks, the head trainer, the boss at the Nottinghamshire House of Pain Training School, which I know you spent a lot of time there honing your craft. Can you please tell us the importance of the House of Pain and the legacy of Sticks, please?
Yeah, of course. Well, for me, it's a key factor because without Sticks and without what would have been NBW back in the day in 2006, the doors to professional wrestling may never have been open to me. So I owe Sticks a lot, and I've known him now for 14 years. And not only was he my coach, he's a good friend of mine. And I've still used the facility. I've been able to use the ring and work on my own training throughout. And I can't say enough good things about Sticks. And I mean, when I started, there was 2 lessons a week, and now he's built a little wrestling empire for himself down in Nottingham with a full-time wrestling school. He's got 3 wrestling rings, a gym, and he's got an absolute mountain of trainees of men, women, different ages, different backgrounds. It's he's managed to build something really special there for himself, and like myself and like so many others, has opened the doors for a hell of a ride for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody does want to follow, just go onto Twitter and put at HOP Wrestling UK, and you can have a look and see what the House of Pain are all up to. I always said when I first got into wrestling that House of Pain was the one of the one places I made sure I had to work, because it's just got this legacy that goes throughout British wrestling, hasn't it? Like, there's a reputation that comes with the House of Pain.
Well, it's a big part of, like you say, the Midlands wrestling scene, and there's been a lot of men and some women who have come through. Obviously, I made my start there. Wrestlers like Paul Malin, Gabriel Kidd, who's making absolute waves for himself. You've had Danny Chase, you've had Diamond Dave Andrews, you've had Bam Bam Bar, and you've had LJ Heron, and now you've had Lucas Archer, and now you've had female stars such as Kanji, who's set the female wrestling side alight. So there's so many people. Of course, Sticks has had and is continuing to have a hell of a career for himself as well. So, there's definitely a legacy there, and a lot of respect that comes Sticks' way and what he's built.
Excellent. Thank you very much. As you know, Mr. Connors, we're opening this up to questions. So any questions that come in, I'm just going to pepper them into our conversation. Benji Smith is the first one. He says, after facing him several times, including losing the WCPW title to him in 2016, what are Joe's thoughts on the WWE champion Drew McIntyre, former Galloway?
We had to rub in the fact that he beat me for that title, didn't he?
Ben for you.
No, I'd say the one thing I'll say about Drew Galloway, and I've had the opportunity to wrestle a lot of people from this country and all over the world. Drew Galloway, for me, thus far, has been the most physically intense wrestler I've ever stepped into the ring with. I had to learn very quickly, if I was going to fight him, I had to fight back. He's he's a hell of an athlete. Look at the shape he's in, look at the stuff he can do. And I think for like a lot of wrestling fans, it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when he'd be sort of stood on top of the mountain. And he's someone I can look at. Somebody asked me this question the other day, and he's someone I can look at. And every wrestler and sportsman and anyone in life, really, you have peaks and you have troughs and you have dips and you have dodges and all that. And Drew is the epitome of that. I think he's told that story himself, and he's never taken his eyes off the road. And over the last few years before coming to WWE, he kept building his reputation, and then coming back into NXT and Raw and doing what he's done. Like I said, it was only a matter of time. And Drew's always been someone I'm would love to share the ring with again. And was someone I looked up to before I stepped into the ring, was someone I wanted to test myself up against. And he beat the crap out of me, but I like to think I gave as good as I got.
It's I think you make a very good point there, Mr. Connors, that not only did he get to the top of the mountain once, but he got knocked back down and made it to the top of the mountain again. I mean, that's testament to the stones of the man, isn't it? The caliber of the athlete that he is.
I think you look at anybody who's had success, or especially in like, I just watched the documentary about the Last Dance, about the basketball Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. It's a subject I had very limited knowledge about, but it's like even the best professionals, they have their peaks and they have their valleys, and you have to rise from things. And I think that's the real testament of the athlete, the man or the woman. How you deal with success, and then sometimes not that how you deal with not failures, but not setbacks and knocks. It's just a part of life, and I think it speaks very highly of Drew as to what he's accomplished.
So, to bring this back to you, Mr. Connors, how does a man from the Midlands in the UK become a WWE superstar? Because, well, I know that when you first started in wrestling, that pathway it was a difficult pathway to get there, but you've done it. How does someone who looks up to you achieve the same as what you've done?
I think, it's a good point. I mean, when I first got into wrestling, when I first got into wrestling, it felt like a match was good. Was a big ask back then, just to have a professional wrestling match. Obviously, the great thing at the moment is, as you mentioned, so many more doors have opened. Look, being a part of the NXT UK brand, who would have thought that would have been a thing maybe 10, 12 years ago? The opportunity, I've said to a lot of people, a lot of men and women, the opportunities are there, but just like in anything, you've got to be the what. You can't expect to sit around and expect the phone to ring and stuff like that. You've got to go out, you've got to chase it, you've got to make things happen. You've obviously, like any profession, you've got to learn from the ground. You've got to get your fundamentals, you've got to learn your craft, you've got to be humble, you've got to be respectful, and you've got to get out there and you've got to hustle in a positive way. Being involved in shows, watching matches, studying tape, learning the history of our industry. And sometimes you have to remember that some people, you may put X amount of time into this, and then you may see somebody else who gets a chance or an opportunity who's only been doing this for a handful of the time. You can't be worried about what other people have done or be upset about an opportunity that you miss up on, because I've always, it might be cliche, but the time you spend worrying about somebody else and what they're doing is time wasted on energy, and positive energy you can be putting into yourself. So it's one of those things. It can be right place, right time, or it can just be, a multitude of things. You just got to be ready for when an opportunity comes in front of you, an opportunity. It doesn't just mean wrestling in WWE. Every opportunity you're given is an opportunity. You've got to try and make the most of it. And you're going to fall, you're going to make mistakes, but it's learning from those mistakes. So it's obviously, it's a broad question, but you've also got to believe in yourself, but you've also got to be aware that it can be a very long road. But if you're willing to stay on the path, then anything can happen. I always say to people, never put a glass ceiling to anything you want to do, whether that's in wrestling or whatever whatever you want to accomplish, because the minute you glass ceiling yourself, you're already telling yourself, okay, that's my stopping point. Who knows what might happen, and I think that's a major factor. I think I got to a point where I was like, I want to get somewhere. I'm not going to tell myself that I can't. People around me may tell me I can't, but that's their prerogative. I need to invest in myself and do the best I can do.
That's what I really wanted you to say, because there's such a sport is a great metaphor for life. So even there's people watching this that want to be an artist or want to be an estate agent or anything. That's that attitude. And you mentioned Michael Jordan, who's the perfect example of it. That attitude's the only way to make success, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd like to say all this stuff that we're talking about, I think it'd be the same if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a fireman or a policeman. It's all relative.
Absolutely right. But we are here to talk about professional wrestling. So it was 2016 that you got signed to the WWE for the United Kingdom tournament, which took place early 2017. For you, having spent 3 years now under the WWE umbrella, what's the biggest lesson that you have learned from working for the top company in the world of professional wrestling?
That's a good question. Obviously, my career with WWE has been different in some respects because when I first got signed, we did the first tournament, and then I was lucky enough to do some live event tours with SmackDown and Raw, and then we did a few little bits and pieces here and there. I got to perform at WrestleMania Access, but obviously we were still trying to make what NXT UK is today and build the brand and get to a place. So I was dipping in and out whilst still doing independence in England and across Europe. But obviously, since the UK PC was implemented and the brand has been lifted, learning a whole new aspect of my whole career was obviously wrestling on the independents, and I had some experience wrestling on by pay-per-view and streaming services and stuff like that, but wrestling on television is a whole different ball game, and it's still something I'm working on and still trying to get the best of. Learning to be a WWE superstar and work under some of the best coaches and talents around. It's a privilege, and it's a real honor and a hell of an opportunity that we're given each time we're given TV time, and just being involved in that bubble. I mean, a really great piece of advice that I used to sort of say to myself, it was reaffirmed by William Regal. And makes sense. He mentioned that whenever he wrestled, whether it be on television, whether it be on a live event or a pay-per-view, the moment he walked through the curtain, even though as wrestling fans we all respect and love William Regal, he would go through that curtain and expect no one in that audience to know who he was. That he's going to tell the story and showcase himself, not to the case of thinking that everyone's going to know who he was. And I think that's a really good lesson when you're going on television is never, don't get comfortable. Don't think that everyone's going to have seen what happened last week or 2 weeks or know your story from wherever. You've got to keep selling this story. And somebody mentioned my work in WCPW before. Well, the likelihood is there'll be people watching the product who have no idea who I am and what I've done. So it's my job to educate and show me to that audience as best I can. And that's something I'm always trying to strive to do.
That's a great bit. It reminds Stan Lee used to say the same thing when he'd write a comic. Because every comic book that someone picks up off the shelf is somebody's first comic book. So you need to kind of like tell them who you are. The moment, I mean, in wrestling, it's the moment you walk through the curtain, the public need to know, I know who this guy is.
You've got to leave some kind of impression, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's the same with any, look at all the information and all the streaming services from the WWE Network to Netflix to Amazon Prime to Now TV to everything we have. How many times do people find themselves, you put a film on, it doesn't quite grab you, and then you move on to the next option. I'm very much under the impression that could be the same when you're watching NXT UK or whatever program you're watching. You've got to be able to grab people's attention, or at least give them some kind of intrigue into who you are, what you represent, what you bring to the table, and that's a major factor, I think, in any line of entertainment.
I think you're absolutely right. Something that we do here at Superstar Speakers quite a bit. Robert Campbell has been on. He says, I was lucky enough to see you either wrestle or tag with El Ligero on a number of occasions. Who is the best British wrestler you have either wrestled or tagged with?
Okay, so I mean, there's so many. It's hard to list just one British wrestler who's the best. I mean, I'll name a few. And then I'll try and go to the tag team. I mean, Ligero is definitely one of them. Rampage Brown's one of them. Tyler Bates, obviously one of them. I consider Tyler to be one of the best in the world right now, from a British standpoint. Martin Kirby, of course. Sharing the ring with guys like Styx. I mean, I could sit here and name. I don't want. It's one of those things where you don't want to leave anybody out. Hunter Brothers, so many guys on the UK circuit. Obviously, people know the talents that are in NXT UK and why they're there. But guys like Rampage and the Hunters and Styx and people like that, obviously, who are still doing great on the independent scene. From a tag team standpoint, obviously, you mentioned Ligero. It has to be Ligero and Paul Malin, because me and Paul, that was a big part of my start in wrestling. Being a tag team, some people may or may not be aware, I was in a tag team with Paul Malin called the Predators, and we had a pretty good run back then. And I think that helped me then metamorphose into the singles division. And then doing the stuff with Ligero, it was just so much fun, just because we were so comfortable we'd wrestled each other so many times, and we would try to create something different. And it was two people having fun, and I think the audience knew we were having fun. And when the audience know you're having fun, they're going to have fun with you. And that was great with me and him. We've made pretty good enemies as well in the past, but that tag team was special.
Yeah, special is a good word for it. I think the best thing you mentioned, the thing you mentioned there though, is like you got Rampage, you got Tyler, Ligero, the Hunter Brothers. They're very, very different wrestlers, which is entirely the beauty of professional wrestling. That every single thing is different about it. What one person brings to the ring isn't what someone else brings to the ring. Going back to NXT, when you've got Matt Bloom as a trainer, or you've got Norman Smiley, or you've got William Regal, three very, very, or Johnny Saint. 4 different styles of wrestling. Do you think that's a fair thing, or are wrestlers now learning all these different styles and becoming like hybrids of different styles?
Well, I think the great thing about pro wrestling is what you just said there, is that you could sit down with, you're going to sit down with Sticks on Wednesday, and we could ask you your favorite wrestlers, your favorite matches, your favorite moments. You do the same with me. You do the same with the people listening to this, and we're probably, some of the answers may be similar, but we're all going to have different reasons why we got into wrestling, who we love in wrestling, what brings us to watching the products. And I think that's the great thing about wrestling, is that I don't have to be the same as Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate doesn't have to be the same as Ashton Smith. Ashton Smith doesn't have to be the same as Ligero or Saxon Huxley, and the list goes on and on and on. The great thing about what we do is variety. Look at in WWE, you have the 205 Live division, you have the tag team divisions, you have the female division, the Women's Revolution at the minute. You have so many different characters and different styles, and it's good. I think it's good to learn a blend of all of them. But the great thing is that it's much, this wrestling's always been compared to the circus at times. There's so many different acts and so many different ways in, and it's a great thing that if you can't do something, it's not the end of your wrestling career. You don't have to do every single thing, or not everyone is like a Tyler Bate or a Will Ospreay, who they can just you show them something once and they're going to do it to the 5 stars or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's why we love wrestling, because it's all I could name 10 of my favorite wrestlers, and all of them are going to have different styles and different stuff. It's that's the great thing about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've always found that everybody has a story or a relationship with wrestling, even those people that don't immediately strike you as a wrestling fan. Every person has that relationship with it, because it's universal, isn't it? It's a universal form of entertainment.
Yeah, it's funny, over the years, the amount of people who, when they find out I'm what I do for a living, or have found out, and then all of a sudden they've never spoke about wrestling before, but then they all of a sudden have this knowledge about who and this, and it's a lot more people who watch wrestling sometimes than you imagine.
Oh, I've had it on the Superstar Speakers tours when I'm talking to the ex-pro footballer. I said, we're getting some wrestlers on. And they're like, oh, who've you got on? And like, I didn't expect you to be liking this.
Yeah,
people that won the Premier League. You're like, hang on. Didn't see that coming.
Well, that's the great thing about what we do. It just it can involve everybody. That's what's so good about
it. We have a question coming for you, and you're going to love it. It's from a mutual friend called Andrew Robertson. It said, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Oh, well, we talk about this question a lot, because it's hard, because there's so many, there's only 4 people you can have on there, and there's obviously so many people.
How about we change it? Your 4 inspirations, because obviously it's hard to pick one inspiration in wrestling, but the 4 wrestlers that inspired you to follow this career path.
Okay, that's a good question. I guess like the first person that really got it back when I was younger would be Mick Foley. So let's put Mick in there. Let's put Eddie Guerrero in there, because I remember watching his DVD back in the day, and actually started to consider looking at this as more than just being a fan at the time. Got to put Bret Hart in there, because I'm just a massive Bret Hart fan. And then from a more modern era, just as my personal favorite wrestler is Christian. So I'm going to put Christian in there as well, so to make it a bit different.
Okay, that's interesting. I want to expand a little bit on and unpick those. What is it about Foley that makes him a great? Because Mick Foley is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. and I'm sure for very different reasons to why he's one of yours. So I'm interested to see why you love Mick so much.
Well, I mean, like I say, I could have named you 100 people, but Mick Foley, you asked what for personal for me. I remember, I think when I was first getting into wrestling again as a young teenager, like so many people, reading his first book.
Yeah.
And it was Mick's books are fantastic. Calling him Mick, like with me and him are best friends. Mr.
Right.
Mick Foley's Mankind's first book was fantastic. Just because it was almost, I mean, I think great authors, it feels like they're telling that story just to you. And I mean, I've gone back when I've been older and reread it, but I just his story as well, like kind of a normal man, but with very a normal bloke, but then this guy who then becomes these eccentric, not so normal characters and different variations of himself, and such a creative mind, and the passion he had for entertaining people and putting himself to the limits. Had so many. I mean, his promos and some of his, obviously he's known for a lot of the cell matches and the hardcore matches, but he could also really go just a different sort of old school but modernized style, and just clearly loved what he did, and from what I can see, he never stepped on anyone to get there. He was was true to himself, stayed humble, stayed true to Mick Foley, but then created these eccentric, amazing characters like Cactus Jack and Mankind, and smashed it out of the park every time he was there, and drew a lot of money, and definitely has a place in the wrestling Mount Rushmores.
I always think with Foley as well, one of the greatest things he ever did was the Mick Foley character, because obviously you've got these three very different branches of his personality. Mankind is not Cactus Jack, is not Dude Love, but then Mick Foley as a wrestler and as a character is the sum of these three parts, and I think it added a very, very interesting layer to what could have been quite a dull persona.
Well, I think he even goes on record and says like his favorite character was the Mick Foley Commissioner, and which was him. And I mean, that was such a great run, such a great authority figure. And sometimes good guy authority figures don't have a lot to do, whereas he was just every segment just that he was involved in, so entertaining, so many. And these are memories that 20 years old now, which is scary to say, but they still stand true.
And I think you made the point perfectly when you said about his book. Like, he's a natural storyteller. You get some people in the world that can you hang on their every word. And I think he is one of them, whether it's in writing or through his art as a professional wrestler.
Definitely. And also you can see as a human being the work he's done for charity and stuff like that. You can see like he really, he goes the extra mile in everything he does.
I think you're absolutely right. Quick break from your Mount Rushmore now. Dan Grimsley, who would you currently like to wrestle the most in WWE? Any brand?
Oh, I mean, we talked about it earlier, but I would love to mix it with Drew again. Obviously, he's got that big title, but he's definitely one. Also, just for another guy that you don't see him very often at the minute because he's busy in politics. But another guy that drew me into wrestling was Kane. So to step in the ring with Kane would be an absolute amazing thing. Randy Orton, obviously Edge is back. Who wouldn't want to try it with the Rated R superstar? And I know that he watches NXT UK, so he's another one. I mean, there's so many talented guys, but yeah, Drew, Edge, Randy are people that come straight to mind for me.
I mean, when you talk about an Edge and a Randy Orton who've been at the top of the tree for so long, you're only, and I mean, this is no slight on yourself, of course, but you're only going to learn more and develop more as a professional wrestler. Yeah.
Of course, I'm not. The one thing as well, and I'm sure it goes for every professional. I'm not naive. There's always more to learn in this industry, on this job, and you've got to be ready for it. And being in the ring with guys like that are only going to make you better.
Absolutely. Going back to the Mount Rushmore, then we've done Foley. I'm going to go with Bret Hart next, because obviously Bret Hart is the best there is, the best there was, the best ever, beloved in the United Kingdom. What is it particularly about Bret that really inspires you and drew you to the world of professional wrestling?
I mean, from a simplistic standpoint, just to begin with, when I was a kid, just the outfit, the pink and
Yeah,
black, the pink and black attack stood out to me at first. Just the look, the shades, the jacket, and then he's one of the one good guy characters that I was really invested in, because one thing I like about Brett, even to this day, once again talking like me and him are best friends, but whenever and he, the fact that he tells it the way he feels it is. He's very he knows what he knows, and he's confident in what he says. And I mean, he's another one. His book's just incredible. I've read it so many times. He had, his life just being a part of that family and traveling all over the world, working for his dad's territory, and then, metamorphosing into the career he had in WWE. I mean, and another one, we talk about storytelling, but there's so many classic Bret Hart matches that I just happen, and most of them fall into my favorite, ones. My partner is quite new to the world that I live in, the professional wrestling world. I showed her, Bret
how
Hart.
was that for her?
Yeah, yeah, she got surprised. But I showed her Bret Hart, Roddy Piper from WrestleMania, which is one of my favorite matches, which is just, incredible. You've got Bret and Owen at WrestleMania. You've got the countless Bret, Shawn Michael matches. You've got, just the King of the Ring night, the Mr. Perfect matches. He's an architect in that ring. Bret Hart's just the man for me. I've always loved watching him wrestle, and like you said, he was like, the great thing about Bret Hart as well. Like, the longer the match, the better. If he had more time to paint his story, and I could just sit here and name off so many matches for people. If you're a new fan and you haven't seen a lot of Bret Hart's work, I'd definitely recommend checking the network and going through, some of the classics we've talked about. And he's so good.
Bringing it back to yourself now, Andrew's been on again. So what were your thoughts and feelings when you first got the call to that first United Kingdom tournament?
Well, I remember, funny enough, coming out of Styx's gym at the time. I'd just been doing some late night training, and my mobile phone rang, and it had Stamford written on it. And I thought, well, this is either potentially the WWE, or this is the worst cold call I've ever experienced, And it happened to be the first number, the WWE. It was William Regal, and he mentioned the tournament, and it was just certainly not the call I was expecting. It was totally out of left field, and it was just proud, a proud moment. It was just, couldn't believe it, ecstatic, and just, how do you sum it up? All these years of working towards getting to WWE, and then finding out you're going to be a part of this groundbreaking opportunity, and get to represent your country, and live on the WWE network in front of a whole new world audience. I mean, just incredible. There's not enough words to sum it up.
Was that the feeling of like, this is groundbreaking? Like, we're representing Britain. We've got a responsibility, and we can change British wrestling. Was that the feeling in the camp, or was it one of nervousness?
I think it was a mixed bag of everything. I think excitement. I mean, I think everyone would be lying if they. I think, of course, there's going to be nerves, but it's that excitement and the good nerves. The reason we do this. And I remember, when the press conference happened that unveiled what was going to happen with the 2-night tournament. We were all just. I'm sure I speak for everybody involved. Everyone was just raring to go and show who we were. It was just. It's incredible when you look back and think about what took place, and the opportunity we were all given, and the trust we were given, because that was, to debut 16 men pretty much, other than Danny Burch, and who'd had some, been on WWE TV, but even, Mark Andrews had worked on national TV before, but never on a WWE television. And for us all to go out there and work live TV for the first time, I think, everyone can look back at that. Whoever, no matter how far you went in that tournament, you can look back with pride and say you were a part of something special. We're all a part of the very first, the first tournament, and this brand's going to go on the NXT UK brand's going to go on and get stronger and go on for years. And we can all say we were the beginning. We were we helped build the first layer of bricks to get the thing started. So that's something I'm very proud of.
I completely forgot it was a live thing as well. That must have been, that's a sink or swim moment, isn't it? That's a case of, right, don't screw this up.
Of course, yeah, of course, and that's the thing. I like to, I think in high pressure situations, I thrive, and I think a lot of the guys did. Obviously, look at the performance Tyler and Pete and so many guys put in. It was. I mean, I think that's the thing. Any professional sportsman or whatever, you've got to. This is what you've been working for. You got to go out and smash it, and that was imperative on those nights.
So did you ever find out how you got noticed or how you got recommended to Regal? Did you ever find out like where his journey to meeting Joseph Connors started?
I'd done a bit of extra work earlier that year, I believe. I got the opportunity to be at the Raw and SmackDown tapings at the O2, which was another cool experience because I went back a couple of years later and wrestled on 205 Live in the same building, which was a hell of an experience. But yeah, I was looking. I think one man I've always want to thank because I think he helped me at least put my name out there. It was Dave Taylor. I did some training seminars with him, and got to know him. And he's a great guy, a hell of a professional, and a really funny guy as well. It was awesome learning under him. And I then did a training seminar with Robbie Brookside as well, who I'd only ever met a handful of times. And, he's met so many guys and girls over the years that I doubt he would have remembered me. But I think I did enough in the training seminar that got me recognised. And he was kind enough to give me his email address and his information. I stayed in contact. I kept sending him pictures and information, letting him know what I was up to. Obviously, he was very busy, so I didn't always get a reply. And then I just was getting ready to send an updated email out to WWE and sort of touch base. I think I was 28, about to turn 29, and thinking, okay, I need to, if anything's going to happen, I've got to try and make something happen. And I just sent Robbie the email, and then Robbie said, do you want to do Raw and SmackDown extra work? I was like, well, let me check my schedule. I'll see if I can fit that in. And of course, I took advantage of that, and I met Mr. Regal, and had the opportunity to sit under his learning tree for a couple of days, which was invaluable. There was only a very small group of us there. It was me, Zach Gibson, Sam Gradwell, and Jack Stars, and I believe the three of those had already done tryouts or had some experience. It's my first time, and obviously they're all signed to the NXT UK brand now. And we had an opportunity to work with Mr. Regal, and I'd stay in a bit of touch with him. But obviously he's busy, and then I kept rocking and rolling with my career, and then the phone call happened. So yeah, he was aware of me, and I met him a couple more times, but I was never cocky enough to think, I'm William Regal's favourite wrestler or anything. But I obviously owe him a lot, and I've nothing but respect, nothing but good words. He's been a hell of everything I ever wanted to. He's definitely a man I look up to and a legend in this industry. And all three of them, Dave Taylor, Robbie Brookside, and Mr. Regal, I owe a big deal of where I am now to those three.
Those three names, very much big names throughout the history of British wrestling, right from the World of Sport days through to their importance. Is there much of a World of Sport feel or an old school British feel in the way that they train you or the way that they encourage you to adapt your style? Or have they very much like, that's how things used to be, this is how we do things now?
No, I think, by being a part of the NXT UK brand, I've had the opportunity to really appreciate the World of Sport style or the British wrestling style more, even more so than I did. Obviously, when you're around gentlemen such as Johnny Saint, who's obviously a living legend, that in the names we've mentioned, Dave Taylor, Robbie Brookside, we've done a lot of tape study and match study of a lot of these, people. The Pat Roaches, the John Cortezes, the Jim Breakses, the Adrian Streets, the lists go on. We're watching a lot of matches in between time now and at the PC and getting to learn about those gentlemen and see how they worked. Obviously, also we had in the NXT UK brand you may or may not remember, we did a British rounds match, the first one with Sid Scala and Cassius Ohno, which was a huge thing for our brand. And I think you'd naturally see a bit of European flavour crossed with, the NXT US style as well. And I think it is something we're trying to encourage ourselves and encourage the brand to give. We are NXT UK, so I think we have maybe a responsibility in some respects to keep, bringing that European style, which makes us different. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we've learned a lot of stuff. Also, we have James Mason at the Performance Centre, who's just, one of the best wrestlers who's ever graced a British wrestling ring and around the world. So if you're not
doing it,
yeah, these men, then something's wrong. So yeah, in short, we are definitely getting a flavour from that side, and and I was also going to mention Johnny Moss as well. He's a huge component for it as well.
Is Norman Smiley still a part of it?
He is very much part of the NXT brand in America. Me personally, I know some of the guys and girls who've gone over to America and worked with him. I've met him before, but I've not had the opportunity to do a seminar or work with Norman specifically, but would certainly like to.
Yeah, I'm always quite proud of Norman, because Norman Smiley is he's from Northampton, so same area as me. And I'm always really, really proud of it, because he doesn't get the credit he deserves as, well, not a Northampton legend, but a British legend. So it doesn't really come across as an all-time great British talent.
Sometimes I think people who maybe were watching him during the sort of Monday Night Wars era, I think some people didn't even realise that Norman was, had a history of British wrestling stuff, just because, some people remember him for, how flamboyant and charismatic he was with the big wiggle and all this, he was such a, a segment stealer with the things he did. But he's obviously a hell of a mat technician as well. Whenever you get a chance to see him, some of his matches from that. So he learned to be able to manage to be the performer and also have the wrestling ability as well.
Great. I'm going back to a few questions now. Simon Burdett, out of everyone you've worked with, who is your favourite opponent?
Oof, God, that's a tough question. I will say off the top of my head, I'm going to give it to Martin Kirby, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, just instead of giving you 100 answers, because there would be, I'll say Martin Kirby at the moment.
That's fair. Robert Campbell has asked, who do you think are the up-and-coming British talents and who might make it next to the NXT UK roster?
The up-and-coming UK talents. I'm just trying to. Once again, I don't want to leave anybody out. There's a young man named Dave Graves who wrestles up north and has been around a bit, and is a real test. We were talking earlier about ups and downs. He suffered a really bad leg injury, but he never let that get the better of him. He's worked on his rehab, got himself into great condition, and is back. And he's someone who's really good. I really enjoy watching him. Got a great attitude, got a lot of skill, a lot of ability. So he's someone I could see, being a part of NXT UK for sure, or at least getting a look. A kid down at Styx's place who's, he's got a long way to go at the moment, but that he's so young and he's doing his learning. But one person I'd look out for is a kid named Riley Nova, another one who's works his socks off. He's been doing a lot of working out with me in the ring and working out in the gym and working on his aesthetic appearance, and just great attitude, wise above his years. Really recommend him, and I'd be interested to see where his career goes to. And then another one would be, once again, so many, but another obvious one would be Adam Maxted. He's a guy who's, transitioned from being a reality TV show guy to being this, got one of the best bodies in the industry currently. And also, actually, whilst I'm here, Brady Phillips would be another one who I very much highly recommend to take a look. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. There's other guys, Colt Miles, that I've trained or helped train, Next Level. So many guys to keep your eyes on. It's just a matter of time for some people, and they're all plugging away. And best of luck to them. As long as they don't come, as long as they try and not come and take my spot, they'll be fine.
Yeah, knock them back down to earth a bit. Do you still keep, do you still keep an eye on the British wrestling scene then? Because obviously you've got the busy with NXT UK. Do you still keep an eye on what's going on out in the independents in the UK?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I've still had the opportunity to work some independents. This, during before obviously the outbreak happened, I've been lucky enough to do some work for it in Italy and Denmark quite regularly. Work with some of the European guys and some of the guys over there. And I was at one point, even during the time that I was with first with WWE, I was still working quite a big schedule on the independents. Haven't been doing as much recently, but I am able to keep an eye. A lot of my friends are on the independents, and they keep me up to date with what's going on. I try and check in, and I obviously talk to people and hear what people are up to. And if anybody ever has, I meet people. If maybe teach a seminar here or there, and check in with people and stuff. I mean, obviously, British wrestling's still doing fantastic, and there's a lot of men and women doing really good stuff. So, I'm still a fan. I still like to see what people are up to. So, I try and keep up to date with what's going on for sure.
Do you get treated differently when you go to a show now? Like, if you go to a show just to have a look, do they think, "Oh my god, that's the WWE's Joseph Connors," or is it just like, "Oh, that's Joseph. Like he did this for us many years back." Like, is there a different thing now?
No, I think like when I first got the contract, I think a few people who never had any time for me all of a sudden had a bit more time for me, surprisingly, which I'm sure a lot of the guys and the women have experienced at times. But I've always tried to, outside of the ring, I try and carry myself, like Mr. Eagle said, I try and carry myself like no one's going to know who I am, and just I don't walk around with that kind of way. I like to think I'm quite approachable outside of the ring anyway. Inside of the ring, it's a little bit of a different story. But no, some people, if people are good to me, I'll be good to them. That's the way I am. I'll say hello to everybody and talk to anybody. And no, I don't think anybody's ever really tried. I've always, I will say, like every time I've gone over to Italy or Denmark or Malta or wherever I've been, I've always been treated fantastically, which is great. I mean, some of the places I've slept in the past when I first started sleeping on airport floors or in caravans with no bathroom, no heating, no nothing, and it's I'm a bit older now, so it's all good. I'm everywhere I've been pretty much. I've always been treated with respect, and from the looks of it, so is the rest of the crew as well, which is the way it should be at the end of the day. So yeah, and if I've had a bad experience somewhere, then you don't normally see me go back. So it's I'm quite fortunate in that way. But if someone's doing business with me, I like to think I'll do business with them, and I think I'd like to think I've got a pretty good reputation when it comes to that kind of stuff, and people know that if you have me on an event or a seminar, I'm going to give as much as I can.
And what another point is, like, younger talent are gonna want to pick your brains, you would imagine, and really like sit under your learning tree to find out what they can learn from you.
Well, some do, some don't. But then I can also look at someone like we talked about Gabriel Kidd earlier, who's about 10 years younger than me. I can quite happily watch him and learn from him as well and listen to him. I think that's the important thing. It's not with wrestling, especially. It's obviously tenure and experience, but age doesn't really factor into it. You can learn from just about everybody in this industry. I think the minute you close your brain off to that, I think you kind of kicking yourself in the foot a little bit. And you got to be open-minded in this, and you can learn from good, bad, everything really. You can pick up from anybody.
We had exactly the same comment from Sammy McElroy, who is a Northern Ireland and Manchester United legend, and he was always of the opinion, and it's the Man United way, that if you're young enough, you're ready to go, and it's about the mentality, and that's what Manchester United do. A lot of sports people do. So it's quite refreshing to see it's the same in pro wrestling as well, because they're all athletes at the end of the day. It's all a sporting competition, isn't it?
Well, we're all evolving, and we all look at things from a different perspective sometimes. And I think you have to don't close yourself off, because you can, like I say, you can learn something from this person or this woman or this guy, and then mold it into something for yourself. So you can you learn something from just about everybody in just about any walk of life. And as long as you're open to that, I think that will stand you in good stead.
Yeah, absolutely. Helen Key has a question. What is your next ambition?
Oh, it has to be climbing the ladder in NXT UK. I think things, things have been going my way a little bit more. I've
Mhm.
had a few knocks recently. I'm not naive enough to know. The thing about me is I know that it, I can't win them all, but it's all about how I recover from a loss. You can beat me in the ring, but you can't defeat me outside of it. And I'll always come back harder and stronger, and I'll learn from those mistakes. Um, if I wasn't in NXT UK to at some point pick up the NXT UK Championship, then I don't have a right being there. And the Joseph Connors is worthy is not just a nice little hashtag and a little saying for me to say at the end of a promo. I mean it and I believe it. And I think anybody who steps into the ring with me knows it as well. So whether it be Walter or whether it be somebody else, I am gonna get that championship one day. That's my plan. And some people support me and some people doubt me. And I love the people who doubt me, because if you doubt me, it just gives me that little bit more fuel in my system to prove you wrong. And I love proving people wrong, especially people who like to run their mouths.
Nice. So take that as warning, Helen. Our pal Benji Smith, who's listened to both shows so far, says, talking to James Mason, what are your memories of the SCW days working for the guy hosting this show?
I remember being absolutely really happy to get the opportunity to work James Mason. And it's this match he always talks about, because he, at the time, he was like, he didn't know anything about me, and I surprised him because he enjoyed the match. And I've always had a lot of respect for James, and why wouldn't you? He's just so bloody good. James is just, what else can you say? I just watch him, and he's just so flawless and finesseful and fluid, and like the stuff he can do, and it's so seamless. I love picking his brain as well. So yeah, it was a privilege getting in the ring with James Mason. And I think at the time, I mean, I don't know what it would look like now, but for where I was at that time of my life and my career, it was definitely a standout moment for me to be able to sort of get in there with someone like him and at least pass the test at the time was very important to me. And I don't know if me and James have ever mixed it up ever again since then. I've been on a lot of shows, but I don't think we've ever wrestled. So maybe you could pull on the singlet for NXT UK and mix it up with me.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? That's 10 years in February. In February, that'd be 10 years.
Where's the time go?
That is ridiculous.
Very, very scary.
But you're right in what you see with James. The man that's, for those that don't know, he spent a lot of his time at All Star on the holiday camps, and you can talk to him about anything. I was talking to him about boxing and boxing MCing, and he can give good, solid advice on that. The guy he just gets the sport, contact sport, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously you mentioned his All-Star work, but I mean, he's been to Japan, he's wrestled in America, he's been all over the place, and I'm so happy, and I mean this, I'm so happy he's a part of NXT UK. He offers so much, and it's been a real big thing having him involved in the brand. So that's it's just great having him involved in that.
That's the cool thing about NXT UK, actually. It really does respect the best in the country, like I said, regardless of age, from a Johnny Saint to come through to a James Mason to your era, and even, well, Tyler Bate and the younger guys as well. It seems to be, it's not a gimmicky promotion. It's very much respecting British wrestling. And bear in mind that Britain did invent wrestling up in Wigan Snake Pit many years ago. There is very much a lot of respect for it within the WWE. Would you say that's a fair comment?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, look, if you've had a chance to, I invite people to check out, look at the documentary that was done on Adrian Street. There was a documentary done on Nigel McGuinness. I'm sure that, I mean, hopefully they'll do more on people like Johnny Saint, and we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, the respect the WWE has for Johnny Saint as well. I mean, he's the fact that he's the general manager. I don't always agree, I don't always agree with some of the matches he puts me in, but that's neither here nor there. He's obviously, I'm smart enough to realise he's a legend, and I have all the respect in the world for him, and you wouldn't want to test him even to this day. So I think, yeah, there's clearly a huge. I mean, look at who the world champion is on Raw at the moment. Look at Nikki Cross is one half of the women's tag team champions. It's a real. You look at the great stuff Sheamus has accomplished. There's a real European flavour across all the brands in the WWE at the moment.
A slightly change of pace with the questioning, Joseph. Obviously, being a wrestler, the aesthetics of the body, and you have to keep yourself fit, and it's a lot of stamina and a lot of bodybuilding. How are you managing that in lockdown? Because obviously gyms being closed at the moment. There's a lot of people out there that are looking for health tips. How are you managing to stay match fit during lockdown?
So just before things really kicked into gear with lockdown, I managed to just get a little bit of equipment, nothing special, but a few bits online. So I've been, and luckily where I'm based, and the UK seems to have been, for the most part, the weather's been good. So I've been able to turn my garden into a bit of a gym area. I've also I've picked up I've really gotten into jogging and running over this period, which has been a really good thing. Just getting out and doing that. I've also, I'm sure you may have heard of it, or some of the people listening. I've just started getting into a thing called Insanity workouts, which are it feels like my body is raining by the end of it. It's I don't think I've never if I've ever lost so much sweat in my life, but they're really challenging. And also just trying to keep it fresh and trying to get inventive with the workouts. It's before the days of having all the equipment in gyms, people started off. If you look at like the Gotch style of working out as well, where it's a lot of body weight and stuff, I've actually enjoyed the challenge of trying to get creative and inventive with it. And I've really obviously, I'm not in the ring, and there's nothing that replicates being in ring shape in terms of ring cardio. But I really have during this time. I said to my partner earlier, I said, maybe I wouldn't. Not that I'm happy that there's been a lockdown, but if there hadn't been a lockdown, maybe I wouldn't have gotten into running as much or doing these insanity things and all these. So, I'm just trying to keep it creative and trying to. I've actually really enjoyed the challenge of it. So I'm pushing myself a lot, and like today, I've done a run, I've done an Insanity, and I've worked my shoulders, and I've also done a bit of yoga today. So I'm spending a lot of time trying to hopefully. So when I do get back in the ring at some point, when it's safe to do so, hopefully I won't be showing signs of ring rust, as they call it.
How are you finding the yoga? Because recently we got to interview a chap called Nico Lavars, who's Team GB boxer. He's a 2-time gold medalist for Britain already, and he swears by yoga. How are you finding it? Because obviously there is a parallel between boxing and professional wrestling. How are you finding that it's helping you?
Well, I really, a year or so ago, really started to realize I need to pay more attention to probably over a year ago, but really work on my stretching and my flexibility. It's something I've always actually struggled with a little bit, just because of my genetics. My dad and my brothers struggle a bit with the flexibility. But I've been using I stretch before my workouts and after my workouts, obviously, but I've been doing a bit of the DDP YRG yoga.
Nice.
And just implementing that. I've had experience with it before, and I've also used to do a bit of hot yoga as well. I do enjoy it because it's something it's not something that comes naturally to me. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy the challenge of it. And I do, when you see little, I think with me anyway, I see little results. It's not massive changes, but it's something you've got to stick with. And I always feel any kind of workout, like these Insanity workouts, halfway through you want to scream at the guy on the screen, but once it's done, you naturally feel better for accomplishing something. It's like whenever I go and I still work on my in-ring cardio and work on, we call them resting drills. No one wants to be hitting ropes all day, but when you do it and you feel like you've accomplished something, and it's to me it's imperative. It's a part of the work you need to do to stay fit. And I in terms of the yoga, it's let's see where I want to see where I can get to with it. So I really want to stick with it and really improve that. Like the older I get, the fitter I want to get as well. I want to keep each year. I want to prove that I can be even in better shape. So those are my goals.
I think yoga's the way forward because obviously, we do a lot of work with the Manchester United legends, but Ryan Giggs, again, swears by the fact he was playing Premier League football at 40 years old due to start yoga in his early 30s. It just kept him fit and healthy, and the injuries that he did pick up didn't last as long. So maybe, that's a good advert for yoga. Maybe we don't get much better than Giggs.
Well, I think like athletes seem to be enjoying their careers and still being involved in very heavy, in big competition in later ages. I mean, I don't follow football as much as I used to, but if I'm not, if you got to about 35, your kind of playing days were really starting to come down. You might drop a few divisions, but now you mentioned Ryan Giggs at 40 years old. I truly think, I mean, obviously Father Time will get to some people, but I think age is enough. I think it's all about how you look after yourself. I mean, my dad, bless him, he's 67 this year. But he won't, he probably isn't watching this, so he won't mind me saying that. But I mean, he's always kept himself in good shape and is fit and healthy. Knock on wood, and he's always he can push himself, and I respect that about him. And I know people who are 20 years younger than him or 30 years younger than him who aren't as in good shape. So I think it's all about your mindset and the way you push yourself.
Well, that goes again back to Johnny Saint. Like you said, he can still do it at his age, and he's got to be in his 60s as well, hasn't he? Surely.
Well, when you're get training or stretching before you do a workout at the PC, and you see Johnny Saint, doing his squats and his bits and his pieces, that says that gives you no excuse. So yeah, he's definitely one to look up to in terms of his physical fitness.
Okay, so we're actually cutting up to the end of the hour then. It's flown past. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Connors, for giving us your time and being our first wrestling guest on what is hopefully a long and fruitful series of professional wrestling on Superstar Speakers.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's great to see you again, man. It's great. It's been a long, long time. One final thing then for anybody watching. What does wrestling mean to you? Because I ask every wrestler I've ever interviewed, what does wrestling mean to you?
I think wrestling gave me my purpose in a lot of ways. Before I was a massive fan. I loved it. It was high. I lived for watching it, and it gave me so many great memories as a kid and as a young adult. And then finding it as a career, it did give me my purpose. It changed my life in a lot of ways. Not to be clipped, but I don't think I was on the best road at that time. It gave me direction, which I lacked, and it's given me the opportunity to, meet some of my best friends. It's given me I've been able to perform across the world. I performed at the Royal Albert Hall. I've been at the Wembley Arena. I've been at the O2. I've wrestled in America. I've wrestled, all over Europe, and I've been lucky enough to do that. And I'm not anywhere near my prime or my peak yet. And it's given me so much. I've learned a lot about myself. I've grown up in this industry, so I owe a lot to it. And I wouldn't change a thing about it. It's been an amazing road, an amazing journey so far, but no, by no means has it even got close to ending at the moment. So I'm very, very excited about where things are going to take me, and I have this. I can say this to you, Rob. I have belief in myself, and that's important. And the hashtag is true. JC is worthy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if that hasn't convinced you, nothing will. Please follow Joseph Connors on Twitter. We've just put his Twitter handle up there. Follow Joseph Connors on Twitter. Please use the hashtag JCisWorthy, and please watch this man on the WWE Network when NXT UK does return. And of course, if you like what we're doing here with professional wrestling, please drop us a message on either the Superstar Speakers page or the Superstar Speakers Wrestling page, and we will do our best to get you some more names and superstars from the world of professional wrestling. But right now, it's all about Mr. Joseph Connors. Thank you very much, man.
You're welcome. Let me just add one last thing. You mentioned NXT UK is still running. We're still putting up our best of episodes on the network. We are on BT Sport and the Paramount Network channel on Freeview. So keep tuning in, keep supporting the brand, and we'll be back to